I am Derek's first love, his white moonlight, but now I'm gravely ill and desperate to return home for surgery. However, my brother, Henry, is doing everything he can to stop me. He firmly believes that if the white moonlight returns, Derek will abandon his stand-in fiancée. And since Henry is utterly devoted to Nathan, the stand-in, he coldly tells me to endure my illness a little longer. The surgery can wait a few days. It won't kill you, he says. They're about to get married. Your timing couldn't be worse. Clinging to my last hope, I nervously called Derek. I've heard I'm your white moonlight. Could you take me home? I asked. I later learned that when I made the call, Derek was in the middle of his wedding ceremony. Without hesitation, he abandoned his bride and guests, boarding a plane that night to come for me. In the hospital ward, I lay alone on the bed, while other patients were surrounded by family members offering comfort. The phone rang, and Henry's cold, disdainful voice came through. Of all times to fall ill, you choose now, when Nate and Derek are getting married. You're really something else. Lying is second nature to you, isn't it? You think I'll believe you? Stop playing tricks. Even if you're dying, you'll just have to hold on until their wedding is over. Tears streamed down my face as I weakly replied, my voice trembling with desperation. Brother Henry, I'm not lying. Please, I'm begging you, let me go home. The doctor said the only surgeon experienced enough to perform this operation is Dr. Frank back home. Without the surgery, I have no chance of survival. I put the call on speaker and asked my attending physician to verify my claim. The doctor confirmed my critical condition, emphasizing the urgency of the surgery. If we delay any longer, she'll miss the optimal window for the operation. Even if she returns home later, it might already be too late, the doctor warned. But Henry remained unmoved. A few days won't make a difference. They're about to get married. Just hold on, he insisted. The doctor, frustrated and angry, snapped through the phone. What kind of brother are you? Your sister is gravely ill, and you're asking her to wait? If something happens to her because of this delay, don't come crying to me later. Henry chuckled coldly. I won't regret it. You doctors shouldn't stoop so low as to help her lie. If a few days' delay really means life or death, then so be it. If she insists on making a fuss, then maybe she shouldn't come back at all. The call ended abruptly, the busy tone echoing in my ears like a merciless slap across my face. The pain was suffocating. The brother who once cherished me, who held me in the palm of his hand, had now become Nate's loyal supporter. He was still the same doting brother, but not to me, his biological sister. Instead, he showered all his affection on his stepsister, Nate, who had no blood relation to him. Did they need me to die to feel even a shred of regret? But regret wouldn't matter to a dead person. I didn't want to die. I wanted to save myself. In the following days, I reached out to renowned doctors overseas, sending them my medical records. But one after another, they all shook their heads. The surgery was too complex. The only surgeon with enough experience is Dr. Frank back in your home country, they said. No one else can perform it. People often assume Western medicine is superior, but when it comes to certain types of surgeries, no one can rival the expertise of doctors from your country, especially those in public hospitals. Dr. Frank is the top surgeon in this field, globally recognized for his skill. I emailed Dr. Frank, asking if he could travel abroad to perform the surgery. He replied, I'm sorry, but due to family reasons, I cannot leave the country. Your condition is critical. I strongly advise you to return home immediately. I'll arrange the surgery as soon as you arrive. But I couldn't go back. My passport had been confiscated and bodyguards monitored me around the clock. Those bodyguards had long been bribed by Nate. One day, I overheard Henry calling the bodyguards from outside my hospital room. Is Emily really sick? he asked. Young master, she's not sick, the bodyguard replied. Even my attending physician was more anxious than I was. Emily, no matter what, you must return home immediately. I've already contacted Dr. Frank, and he's prepared to perform the surgery as soon as you land. An ambulance will meet you at the airport. I closed my eyes, tears streaming down my cheeks. Did they think I didn't want to go home? The attending physician, in a state of desperation, suggested, why not call Derek? Everyone says you're his eternal love, right? Isn't it true that if eternal love doesn't return to the country, Derek won't come to bring you back? You're just abroad, not on another planet. But Derek doesn't love me, Emily replied bitterly. I was the one chasing after him before, and it was exhausting. If I'm really his eternal love, I don't believe it. I don't even know who started such a ridiculous rumor. If I were truly indispensable to him, he would have come to find me long ago. There's no need for him to rely on a stand-in. The attending physician took Emily's phone. Well, we still need to call him. What's his number? I'll dial it for you. Emily hesitated, but eventually recited a string of numbers. Deep down, she had no expectations. Hello, is this Derek? The attending physician asked when the call connected. I heard that Emily is your eternal love. Could you please inform her family that even if she comes back, you wouldn't abandon your current fiancé? Because of this eternal love talk, she can't return to the country. She's seriously ill, and time is running out. Derek's voice was cold. She thinks too highly of herself. From the moment she left, I considered her dead. Emily's heart clenched at his words. They stung like a slap across her face. She gestured to the attending physician to end the call. Forget it. I don't want to humiliate myself any further. But the physician persisted, yelling into the phone, what if she's on the verge of dying? Derek's tone showed a hint of surprise. What do you mean? Exactly what I said. She has a severe illness, and no one abroad dares to operate on her. Only Dr. Frank from your country's top hospital has the skills to perform the surgery. But her brother won't let her return. If you truly have no feelings for her, at least tell her brother clearly, so she doesn't die misunderstood and far from home. Emily sighed. If I'm not Derek's eternal love, could he at least tell my brother? As long as I'm not an obstacle to Nate's happiness, Brother Henry would let me return home. Suddenly, a cheerful voice came through the phone. Derek, who are you talking to? The pastor is asking if you're ready. The guests are waiting. If it's not urgent, can you continue the conversation after the ceremony? That's when Emily realized the background music on the call was the wedding march. It was a beautiful melody, a tune of happiness. No wonder her brother had said she'd have to wait a few more days before returning home. At this moment, Derek was marrying Nathan. And here Emily was, calling him during his wedding. How humiliating. He probably thought she was trying to cause a scene. Her mind raced, imagining the glamorous wedding banquet filled with distinguished guests. Her father, William, and brother Henry were likely watching the couple with approval. The pastor repeated, Mr. Derek, do you take Nathan to be your lawfully wedded spouse, to love and cherish, in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live? Emily abruptly grabbed her phone back from the attending physician and ended the call. She didn't want to hear Derek say, I do. That day, her condition worsened. Feverish and delirious, she drifted into a nightmare. She dreamed of her childhood, when Father William doted on her and Brother Henry adored her. But everything changed after Nathan and his mother entered their lives. After her mother passed away, William vowed never to remarry. But 5 years ago, he met Nathan's mother, a woman who was the spitting image of Emily's late mother. Even Nathan bore a striking resemblance to her mother in her youth, more than Emily ever did. William couldn't resist the allure of this uncanny resemblance. Even Brother Henry tried to comfort Emily, saying, "Just think of her as mom. And Nathan is like the little sister mom never had time to give you." No, Emily had protested. Absolutely not. That was my mom. How could I accept someone else wearing her face, taking over her life? Even Mom's favorite jewelry and the wedding ring Dad gave her were now on that woman's hands. Emily fought back, trying to drive Nathan and her mother out of their home. But her efforts only made her seem like a spoiled, unreasonable girl in everyone's eyes. The love she once received from her family turned into suspicion and resentment. Suddenly, the persistent ringing of her phone pulled Emily out of her feverish state. Squinting at the screen, she saw Brother Henry flashing on it. She answered immediately, hoping that perhaps Derek and Nathan's wedding had concluded and her brother was finally allowing her to return home. Instead, Brother Henry's furious voice thundered through the line. "Why are you so cruel? Do you have to drive Nathan to her death to be satisfied? You have Dad's and my love. What does Nathan have? She's just a girl without a sense of security, willing to be a stand-in for love. She's already sacrificed so much. Why did you have to ruin her wedding? What are you talking about?" Emily murmured weakly. "Your phone call made Derek leave the wedding." In front of all the guests, he walked away and no one could stop him. Now everyone's mocking Nathan, saying she was foolish to think she could replace you. She's become the laughingstock of the entire city. She's so devastated she tried to jump off the building. Are you happy now? Check your conscience, Emily. If anything happens to her, will you ever sleep peacefully again? Emily froze. A sharp pain shot through her chest, and she coughed up a mouthful of blood. The doctor told me I couldn't handle any more stress. But what my brother said was that even human. Brother Henry, why don't you examine your own conscience and ask yourself, do I really have your and Father William's love? Who gets loved so much they nearly die from it? I begged and cried, yet I wasn't allowed to return home. Nathan tried to jump off a building and you were heartbroken. But when I was lying alone in a foreign hospital bed, did you ever feel the same way? I regret it now. I shouldn't have expected you to love me like you did when we were kids. You're not the same caring brother anymore. You don't even listen when I speak. The constant beeping of the medical instruments filled the room. Nurses rushed over, shouting, "This is bad." The patient in bed 18 has dangerously high blood pressure and an extremely fast heartbeat. She's at risk of sudden cardiac arrest. Quick, get Dr. Frank. Meanwhile, Derek had brought his first love back to the country. At that moment, I heard the nurse's panicked voice and Brother Henry's shaky tone over the phone. "What's wrong? Is someone helping you fake this, Emily? Speak to me. Stop scaring your brother. Do you hear me? Speak up. If you don't, I'll have the bodyguards take the phone. I want to hear from them. Now. Immediately." How absurd. I was on the verge of death, and he still believed I was acting. My heart was barren. There was nothing left to say. Should I hand the phone to the bodyguards and let them lie, insisting that I wasn't sick? Despair can't get any deeper than this. It's not like I ever wanted to be the tragic heroine in some melodramatic tale, but fate refused to grant me even the slightest mercy. Wait. Did I just hear Brother Henry mention on the phone that Derek had abandoned his wedding and left Nathan behind? No one could stop him? Was I hallucinating? Then, faintly, I heard Brother Henry's assistant say, "Sir, Derek has left the country." Mr. Derek Sr. sent dozens of bodyguards to stop him at the airport, but no one could hold him back. It was like he'd gone mad, a beast on a rampage. Nothing could stop him. I've never seen anyone so terrifying before. Also, I just got word that Derek never intended to marry Nathan. Even if Emily hadn't called him, Derek still wouldn't have said "I do." He deliberately got involved in this, intending to destroy Nathan at the wedding. Destroy him with what? What could he possibly broadcast to ruin Nathan? My curiosity was piqued. Did Derek really come to take me back home? But it seemed like it was already too late. I saw a swarm of doctors rushing toward me with needles and flashlights, checking my pupils. Yet my vision grew darker and darker. Brother Henry's heart sank. The phone fell silent. He could no longer hear his sister's voice. All that remained was the sound of a doctor shouting, "Quick! Quick! Get her to the emergency room!" The urgency in their voices didn't sound fake. Could it be that Emily really was critically ill? Brother Henry thought about calling the bodyguards to confirm, but his anger quickly overshadowed his worry. He had just watched a video that made his blood boil. If Derek had truly planned to broadcast that video at the wedding, how could Nathan ever show his face again? That man wasn't trying to marry Nathan. He was trying to drag him straight to hell. This cold-hearted Derek, was Emily the only person in his eyes? Even if she was, I won't allow him to bring her back, not if it means Nathan will face an even greater humiliation. Seething with rage, Brother Henry made a call. "Jason, I need a favor. Derek has left the country. I need you to use every resource and connection your family has to stop him from bringing Emily back home. Keep them both outside the country. I know your family is capable of this." Jason was dumbfounded. "Brother, if I'm not mistaken, Emily is your biological sister. If Derek is willing to leave the country for her, why not let them be? Is Nathan more important than your own sister?" "You don't get it," Brother Henry said, gritting his teeth. "Emily has always had everything she wanted since she was a child, but Nathan has never fought for anything. No matter how much he's suffered, he's never competed with her. For the sake of love, he's even willing to be Derek's stand-in. He's already humiliated himself enough, yet Emily still stirs up trouble. One phone call and Derek runs off to another country. I've warned her time and time again, but she just won't listen. Then she pulls this stunt, pretending to be critically ill." Jason's voice rose sharply. "Pretending? Are you sure? What if it's real? You better get the facts straight before you regret it later, holding your sister's urn in your hands." I heard Derek fought off over 20 bodyguards at the airport like a man possessed. Would he go that far if Emily wasn't truly in danger? Brother Henry thought back to the phone call, his gaze dropping as he fell silent for a moment. "Finally," he said, frustrated, "Emily's acting is so good, even I almost believed her. Let alone Derek. Once he gets there, he'll realize she's perfectly fine. She's probably lounging on the couch in some villa abroad, munching on popcorn, watching rom-coms, and bragging to her friends about how irresistible she is. But deep down, I'm still uneasy." Despite his words, Brother Henry called the bodyguards. "Where's Emily right now? And why did I hear the nurses shouting earlier?" The bodyguard, standing outside the closed doors of the emergency room, replied hesitantly, "Miss Emily, she's acting as an extra in the hospital, playing the role of a critically ill patient." Brother Henry's concern instantly turned into a blazing fury. "Oh, great. Just great. Nathan nearly jumped off a building because of her, and she still has the nerve to put on a show for me. If she wants to act, fine, I'll make sure she never comes back home. Not in this lifetime. Even in death, she won't return." When I woke up again, I found myself on a plane, wearing an oxygen mask. I was surrounded by medical equipment, and someone was holding my hand tightly, as if letting go would allow death to take me away. Another voice reported anxiously, "Derek, the airport won't allow the plane to land. They said no domestic airport will permit this private jet to touch down. They're advising us to turn back. But turning back now is essentially letting Emily die. When we picked her up abroad, the doctor already warned us that she was hanging by a thread and could die at any moment. You took a huge risk, gambling with death, to decide to bring her onto the plane. Before takeoff, you repeatedly confirmed with Dr. Frank that she'd be taken straight to the hospital for surgery upon landing. But now what? They're refusing to let us land. And it was her own brother, Henry, who pulled strings to make this happen. How could he be so cruel? What he's doing is no different from killing his own sister with his own hands. A silent tear rolled down the corner of my eye. Weakly, I parted my lips. Derek, is that you? Derek's eyes were bloodshot. Emily, you're awake. Don't be scared. We're on the plane back home. You'll be okay. I promise. I gave him a faint, bitter smile. Stop lying to me. I heard everything. My brother doesn't want me to come back. Am I dying? No. I swear you won't die. Your brother underestimates me. He thinks he can stop me, but he can't. But you said, when I stepped out of the country, that you considered me dead already. So why did you come to get me? Derek raised his hand and slapped himself hard across the face. A loud crack echoed in the cabin, leaving a red handprint on his cheek. Just looking at it made me wince in pain for him. His eyes brimmed with tears. Emily, I'm so sorry. My pride and ego made me harden my heart and not come looking for you. I regret it now, regret it so much it hurts. I shouldn't have said those cruel words to you. Now I realize that my pride and ego are worthless compared to losing you. I tried to curl my lips into a weak smile. I don't blame you anymore. It was my decision to leave. But when I heard you treated Nathan as my replacement after I left, I hated you so much. Everyone says I was your white moonlight, but I never felt it. Still, I want to thank you. Thank you for coming to get me when I was most helpless, even if it's just to let me die in the skies above my homeland. Derek seemed like he had something to say but hesitated. Instead, he leaned down and pressed a careful kiss to my forehead. Stay strong, Emily. But I couldn't stay strong anymore. I had long since lost my strength. Every day, I called my brother, begging him to let me come home, telling him I was on the verge of dying. But he never believed me. I lay alone on a hospital bed in a foreign country, writhing in pain. During those moments, I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe I'll just die here, in a land that's not my own. Then, when my brother finally remembers me, all he'll have left of me is an urn of ashes to cry over. But I wasn't willing to let that happen. Who cares if he cries over my ashes? No amount of tears would ever bring me back. What good would that do me? Every day, I cheered myself on in my heart. Emily, hold on. You can't be the tragic heroine of some sob story. The world is full of cheap, belated apologies, and supposed heartfelt confessions. You not only have to live, but you have to live boldly and freely. Go back and slap your father and brother across the face. Scratch up Nathan and his mother's faces and kick them out for good. Never let them lay a hand on your mother's things again. Derek, I think I see my mom. She's reaching out to me. I tried to lift my hand to reach for her, but Derek pressed it back down. With his other hand, he grabbed his phone and made a call. I couldn't hear who he was calling, but his voice was hoarse and furious. I don't care how you do it. I want this plane to land immediately. If anything happens to my wife, you'll never have a family of your own. Who else would my wife be? Of course, it's Emily. I gave her a betrothal gift when she was 18. You know this. Stop wasting time and figure it out. She's at her limit. If she dies, I won't go on living either. His voice shifted from commanding to desperate. I'd never seen Derek like this before. It was as if his entire world was crumbling. Wait, what did he mean by giving me a betrothal gift at 18? I had no idea. I couldn't die without figuring this out. I mustered the strength to ask, what do you mean by that, Derek? Derek looked at me, his eyes bloodshot, unwilling to say anything. His assistant, however, couldn't hold back. Miss Emily, why are you pretending not to know? You can't just bully Derek because he loves you. You were the one who started it. They say the one who makes the first move loses, and you made your move and then ran off, carefree as ever. But my boss fell for you and has been trapped ever since. Shut up, Derek snapped. Boss, if you don't let me speak now, there might never be a chance. Miss Emily, do you remember who picked up that love letter from the trash and accused Derek of bullying you? You cried your heart out like he'd done something unforgivable. Everyone saw it. Derek didn't know how to comfort you, so in the end, he gave you the betrothal gift. Have you forgotten? In my freshman year of high school, I did write Derek a love letter. At the time, he was in his senior year. I happened to be walking past the basketball court when I got hit by a stray ball. Furious and in pain, I stormed over to find the culprit. I clutched the ball and bellowed, "Which idiot threw this at me?" The boys playing basketball were all cheering and laughing. Derek, someone wants to be your little sweetheart. I saw a tall, handsome boy walking toward me against the sunlight. He was stunning and I was completely captivated. He raised an eyebrow, and his voice was so alluring it made my ears feel like they were about to give birth to little hearts. It wasn't intentional, he said. I don't care. Intentional or not, you have to take responsibility for me, I shot back. If my head got damaged, you'd have to take responsibility for the rest of your life. He didn't respond, but I felt like Cupid had just shot an arrow straight through my heart. After that, I found myself frequently going to the basketball court to watch him play. Every time he stepped onto the court, his friends would tease, "Derek, your little sweetheart is here again." My face would flush, but Derek treated me like I was invisible. At that time, Derek was already the star of the school, great family background, excellent grades, and ridiculously good looks. Many girls had a crush on him and wrote him love letters, but he would always toss them in the trash. I wanted to write him one too, but I was scared my heartfelt confession would end up in the garbage as well, so I didn't. Eventually, his family arranged for him to study abroad. The news that he was leaving soon made me panic. I finally gathered the courage to pour my feelings onto pink paper and wrote him a letter full of teenage longing. That day happened to be Derek's 18th birthday. The senior members of the basketball club had all been invited to his birthday party, a send-off before he left. By then, I was already on friendly terms with the seniors, so they invited me to join them. At the party, I mustered all my courage and handed him the letter disguised as a birthday present. To my dismay, later that night, I saw my letter in the trash at his house. Heartbroken, I confronted him, demanding to know why he had thrown away my sincere feelings. Tears streamed down my face as the guests at the party looked on, mocking me silently. His cool voice told me to stop crying, but I couldn't. It was the first time in my life I had liked someone, gone as far as investigating his preferences, and shamelessly followed him around every day, only to fail so miserably. I felt humiliated and defeated. No matter how he tried to calm me down, I couldn't stop crying. In the end, he carefully folded my letter, stuffed it into his pocket, and then took off the watch he had been wearing on his wrist. He placed it on mine. "I'll keep the letter," he said. "And here's a gift for you. You can't throw it away. If you do, don't even think about being my little sweetheart. Got it?" His assistant later explained that the watch was no ordinary gift. "This watch," he said, "is considered an engagement token. In the Derek family, every child receives a custom-designed watch on their 18th birthday. When the time comes, the watch is given along with other betrothal gifts to their future spouse. So in the eyes of the Derek family, whoever receives the watch is already considered the fiancé. That day was Derek's 18th birthday. He had just received the watch, barely had time to warm it on his wrist, and then took it off in front of everyone to put it on mine, declaring me his future wife. From then on, Derek's family treated me as his fiancé. Every time he returned home for summer or winter break, he would immediately invite me over for a meal. And after he finished his studies abroad and returned to take over the family business, his family began urging him to marry me. But on the day he waited for me at the courthouse, I didn't show up. Instead, Nathan came to see him and said, "She doesn't want to marry you. She's leaving the country." Derek didn't believe him. He chased me all the way to the airport to stop me, only to see me ruthlessly throw the watch into a trash can before boarding the plane without looking back. I was stunned, confused, and heartbroken. I smiled bitterly as tears rolled down my face. So that's how it was. All this time, it was like this. I had always believed Derek didn't like me. Even though everyone said I was his one and only, I had always thought it was just a joke. After returning from abroad, Derek joined his family's company, quickly made his mark, and became a rising star in the business world. Women lined up to marry him. Afraid someone else would take him away, I finally mustered the courage to block his driveway, holding up the watch on my wrist. "It's been 6 years," I said. "I haven't dared to take this off for even a single day. When will I finally get to be your little sweetheart?" I stood on tiptoes, grabbed the collar of his white shirt, and kissed him. Just as I was losing myself in the moment, he pulled away and said coolly, "Tomorrow morning at 9, bring your ID to the courthouse." I was over the moon as I returned home, but Nathan threw a video at me. In it, Derek was rejecting a girl's confession. "Sorry," Derek said. "I already have a fiancé." Nathan sneered at me. "You look down on me and my mother, but how noble are you really? Throwing yourself at Derek when he already has a fiancé? Aren't you just pathetic?" I didn't believe it. I called Derek's mother, and she laughed as she confirmed, "Yes, Derek has had a fiancé since he was 18. Didn't you know?" That was the most humiliating night of my life. I cried myself to sleep with my eyes wide open and boarded a plane the very next day. It wasn't until now, almost dying and bedridden, that I learned the truth. The fiancé Derek had been referring to all along was me. "I'm sorry," I said. I didn't know what the watch meant. That night, Nathan showed me a video and told me you already had a fiancé. He called me a homewrecker. I couldn't take it, so I left. "Did you really wait for me at the courthouse all day?" Derek didn't answer. His phone buzzed with a call. "Hey, man, the plane can land now. But someone leaked the news about you bringing your one and only back, and the airport's swarming with reporters. Be careful not to get caught on camera." "It doesn't matter," Derek said indifferently. And it didn't matter to me either. I even had a wicked thought. If the reporters put me in the headlines, could Brother Henry still accuse me of faking it? Besides, I've finally returned. There's hope for me now. The plane landed at the airport. Lying on a gurney, I was pushed out of the arrivals gate. Countless reporters rushed towards me, camera flashes blinding in every direction. The trending news was filled with stories about the beloved Emily returning gravely ill. Derek's assistant, Nate, was livid. "Henry, didn't you say Emily was faking her illness? I can't believe you've sunk so low. For Nathan's sake, you ignored your own sister's life? Had I known Emily was on the brink of death, I'd never have helped you stop Derek's private plane from landing. I feel sick about it now. How am I supposed to face Emily after this?" "What are you talking about?" "My sister is faking it," Henry snapped. "Still claiming she's pretending?" The trending news is flooded with videos of her barely clinging to life. "Henry, you're a disgrace to humanity." Nate spat. "What trending news? Didn't I tell you to stop the plane from landing? They made it back anyway, you piece of garbage. Are you still trying to stop her from coming home? Check the trending news yourself if you're so blind." Nate hung up on him, blocking his number immediately. Who needs a scumbag brother like this? Henry, thoroughly confused, didn't even have time to open the trending news before Derek's call came through. Get to West Side Hospital. Now. Only family members can sign off on Emily's surgery. I'm giving you 10 minutes. What surgery? Henry roared. I'm already at West Side Hospital. Nathan tried to kill herself after you abandoned her at the altar. She couldn't handle the ridicule and jumped from a building. I managed to pull her back just in time, but later she overdosed on sleeping pills. She's having her stomach pumped as we speak. All you ever think about is Emily. Do you even realize Nathan almost died because of you? Before Henry could respond, he overheard a group of nurses gossiping outside the hospital room. It's him, right? The one who, for some substitute who overdosed on 2 sleeping pills as a stunt, refused to let his own sister come back for treatment. If she'd been flown back for surgery earlier, there might have been hope. But now it's too late. Her body's in no condition for surgery. But that poor girl still wants to gamble on it. She begged Dr. Frank to operate on her. It's so heartbreaking. Their voices weren't loud, but every word hit Henry like a hammer. He broke out in a cold sweat, panic choking him. His legs moved faster than his brain as he raced to the floor Derek had mentioned, desperate to prove them wrong. No way, he thought. The bodyguards told me she wasn't sick. But then, his sister's pleas echoed in his mind, her calls to him, one after another, begging him to believe her. I'm sick, she said. If I don't come back soon, I'll die. Fear gripped him. By the time he reached the operating room doors, he was drenched in sweat. There on the gurney lay his sister, Emily, barely clinging to life. His knees buckled, and he nearly collapsed. How did this happen? Emily, what's wrong? Don't scare me. I looked at him, both furious and heartbroken. What's wrong with me? Can't you tell? I'm dying. Because you didn't believe me, I missed the best window for surgery. Now, every second I'm in the operating room is a gamble with my life. Are you satisfied? This can't be happening. Henry grabbed Dr. Frank's arm desperately. Is what she's saying true? Yes. I advised her to return for surgery a week ago, but she delayed again and again until it was too late. Now the surgery's success is uncertain. I can only do my best. Henry staggered, barely able to stand. He reached out to touch my face, but I slapped his hand away. Now you want to act like you care? For whose benefit? Emily, I didn't know. I didn't know you were really sick. The bodyguards told me, his voice choked, unable to continue. He slapped himself hard across the face in frustration. Seeing his regretful expression didn't bring me any satisfaction. I was just angry, furious, disappointed, heartbroken. Because the bodyguards said I wasn't sick, you believed them without question? I shouted, tears streaming down my face. I begged you over and over, told you I was sick, and you didn't believe me. You trusted strangers over me. What gives you the right to defend yourself now? For 5 years, ever since Emily and her mother showed up, no matter what I said or did, I was always the unreasonable one. They could do no wrong, and I was always the villain. The bodyguards you sent to watch over me abroad? They were already on Nathan's peril. Whether I was ill, hurt, or bullied, all they ever told you was, Miss Emily is fine, or she's faking it. And you never questioned it, never investigated. Are you happy now? I laughed bitterly through my tears, the weight of years of injustice suffocating me. The people who can hurt you the most are always the ones you love the most. Like my dear brother. Under my relentless questioning, Henry was left speechless, ashamed. All he could do was repeat, I'm sorry, over and over. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. You don't deserve to say it. Defeated, he dropped to his knees in front of Dr. Frank, begging him repeatedly. Please, save my sister. I'm begging you. Dr. Frank handed him the consent form. Begging me won't help. Just sign the form. Lying on the gurney, I watched as Henry signed the papers. I closed my eyes tightly, then opened them again. This is the last time I'll trouble you to act as my family and sign anything for me. From now on, I don't have a brother anymore. Henry's hand trembled as he signed the document. What do you mean by this? Exactly what it says. And one more thing, tell Father William for me. If I make it out of the operating room alive, I will publicly sever all ties with him. If I don't survive, don't bother cleaning up my body. I find it unlucky. From now on, I will never again hope for a father's love or a brother's care. They've turned me into the tragic heroine of some morbid story. I will never forgive them. Emily, don't say that. Brother Henry knows he was wrong. He'll make it up to you. He tried to hug me, only to have Derek land a punch squarely on his face. Don't touch her. You don't deserve to. And what about you? Do you deserve to? Henry shot back. If you had just married Nathan sooner, would I have had to keep Emily outside the country? Derek, this is all your fault. You've ruined both of my sisters, and now you want to ruin Nathan's wedding too. The argument escalated into a physical fight, the two men grappling and throwing punches at each other. I was curious about how Derek planned to ruin Nathan's wedding, but I didn't have time to ask. I was wheeled into the operating room, praying for a miracle. But in the end, I lost the gamble. The surgery failed. I didn't die though. I became a vegetable. 1 day passed. Then 2. Then a month. 2 months. A year. 2 years. I lay in that hospital bed, not knowing when or if I would ever wake up. The first to lose his mind over the situation was Henry. He stayed by my bedside day after day, not leaving for a moment. Regret consumed him, but it was useless. He berated himself endlessly, wishing he could turn back time. Eventually, Henry directed his anger toward a group of bodyguards. They had disappeared overseas, but Henry spent 3 months tracking them down. When he found them, he subjected them to brutal interrogations until they finally confessed. It was Nathan who ordered us to do it. He had dirt on all of us. He said if Emily died abroad, we should stage a car accident to cover it up. That way, no one would suspect us, and even if Derek wanted to blame someone, it wouldn't fall on us. Please, sir, we were forced into this. The real culprit is Nathan. Please spare us. But Henry spared no one. He couldn't even forgive himself. He shattered every bone in their bodies, severed their tendons, leaving them alive, but wishing for death. Emily, Brother Henry has avenged you. And as for Nathan, you never liked him or his mother staying in our house, did you? I've sent them both to a psychiatric hospital. They'll never appear in front of you again. Henry had loved Nathan, or so he thought. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost his mind and kept his own sister out of the country for Nathan's sake. But that love evaporated the moment his sister fell into a coma. No matter how much Nathan begged, Henry wouldn't budge. He threw a perfectly healthy person into an asylum without a second thought. You like jumping off buildings, don't you? I've told the director to take you to the rooftop every day. Don't worry, I won't let you die. As long as Emily doesn't wake up, you don't deserve to die. But not dying means living a life worse than death. That's the only way to ease my hatred. Later, Father William began visiting the hospital frequently. He would sit by my bedside, reminiscing about my childhood. Emily, Father won't go looking for a replacement for your mother anymore. Derek showed me a video. It turns out that woman and her daughter didn't naturally look like your mom. They had plastic surgery to look like her. I've had their faces ruined. Emily, anything you don't like Father doing, I'll stop. Please wake up and keep me in line, okay? So the mother and daughter had undergone surgery to look like my mom. No wonder they resembled her so much. Was that the video Derek had planned to play at the wedding? But late arriving fatherly love was cheaper than dirt. Father William didn't deserve to say he loved my mother, nor did he deserve my forgiveness. Neither he nor my brother would ever receive it. I wanted to yell at them, to tell them to leave, that they didn't deserve to be here. But I couldn't wake up. The person who visited the hospital most frequently was Derek. He came almost every evening after work. He didn't talk much, but I could hear his footsteps, the sound of him typing on his laptop, his voice as he took business calls, and his steady breathing when he lay beside me at night. But he rarely spoke to me, until one day, when he saw tears rolling down my face. He was so excited, thinking I was waking up. Frank came to examine me. The patient shows no signs of waking up, but she does seem to have some level of external awareness. You might want to try talking to her more often. Derek's usually cool voice quivered with emotion. Talk to her more? Will that wake her up? Frank replied, It's hard to say, but it's worth a try. From then on, Derek started talking more. After work, he would sit by my side, chatting about random things. Do you remember the time you got hit in the head with a basketball? That was actually on purpose. The first time I saw you was during your freshman orientation. You gave a speech on stage, this bright, sunny girl with glowing eyes, like little light bulbs that could charm anyone. Later, it wasn't the basketball team that invited you to my 18th birthday party. It was me. I told them to ask you. And I didn't throw your love letter in the trash. I don't know who did. I even checked the security cameras, but nothing came up. I remember you storming up to me, looking like a little ball of anger, accusing me of bullying you. My heart felt like it was breaking as I cried. Those years abroad without you around to constantly remind me of your presence, I actually missed you quite a bit. One summer, during an especially busy internship, I hadn't planned on coming back. But then I heard you had your eye on someone else. Furious, I booked a ticket home that very night. Luckily, you were sensible enough. The moment you heard I was returning, you immediately refocused all your attention on me. I decided to let you off the hook. Later, to prevent anyone else from daring to pursue you, I spread the word in our circle. You were my one and only. It worked quite well. At least during those 6 years I was abroad, no one dared to make a move on you. But who would have thought that within half a year of my return, you'd do something so outrageous? Just the day before, you were asking how you could become my one and only. Yet the next day, you left me waiting outside the courthouse all day and never showed. Instead, you bought a ticket and flew overseas. I was absolutely livid. Picking up the watch you had tossed away from the trash was the final straw. You really pushed my buttons. I've always been proud, never one to wear my heart on my sleeve. If you hadn't run away back then, even if we had gone to the courthouse to sign the marriage license, it's unlikely I would have openly expressed my love for you. When you didn't reach out to me for help the first time you fell ill, I was angry, but now that I think about it, I can understand. It's my fault for being too aloof. I never treated Nate as a substitute for you. Never. As for the wedding, let me explain. Your brother, Henry, uncovered some family secrets of ours that couldn't be made public. He struck a deal with my father, William, forcing me to marry Nate. I had no choice but to set up a plan. My intention was to humiliate Nate at the wedding and completely disgrace your brother. But let's not dwell on that. I was wrong in the past. I shouldn't have left you alone overseas and ignored you. I assumed that since you were pursuing a master's degree, you'd return in 2 years anyway. I never thought you'd actually slip through my grasp. The watch I gave you is yours, even if you throw it in the trash. And since I gave the betrothal gifts, that makes you mine. That's my rule. If you never wake up, then we'll just keep living like this, me working during the day and keeping you company at night. It's not so bad. But if one day you do wake up, Emily, then it'll be my turn to chase you. I won't be cold anymore. I won't be prideful. I won't let you feel insecure or hesitate or doubt me. I'll tell you everything I feel, okay? I think my tears are spilling again, just reflexive tears. Derek's fingers gently wipe the corners of my eyes. Emily, don't cry. You can hear me, can't you? Then let me tell you. I'll tell you everything. At the freshman orientation in high school, the first time I saw you, I thought you were adorable. I wanted to get to know you, so I threw a basketball at you. When you asked who the idiot was that threw a ball at you, your words were so funny I wanted to ruffle your hair. Every time you'd come bouncing over to the basketball court to watch me play, I acted indifferent, but I was dying to pinch your cheeks. On your 18th birthday, when I put that watch on your wrist, I wanted to drop to one knee and tell the world, this girl is mine. But I didn't do any of it. If you wake up, I'll make it all up to you. Is that okay? I couldn't hold it in anymore. I tried so hard to open my eyes. I thought I couldn't do it. I'd failed so many times before, countless times. I thought this time would be the same, that I'd never wake up. But then, in the next moment, a light shone through, like the first rays of dawn breaking over my dark world. And I saw him, the man I'd been chasing since our school days, handsome and composed. He was kneeling on one knee, carefully putting the watch I'd once thrown away back onto my slender wrist.